I never thought I'd be the type of person to seek revenge, but my sister-in-law Helen, 32F, pushed me too far. I'm Deborah, 28F, and I've been with my husband Stephen, 30M, for 5 years. We got married last month, and it should have been the happiest day of our lives. Instead, it turned into a nightmare because of Helen. Stephen and I met during our sophomore year of college. We were both part of the same study group for our advanced business statistics class. I remember being intimidated by Stephen at first. He was always so confident and seemed to grasp complex concepts effortlessly. Meanwhile, I was struggling to keep up, often staying up late to review my notes. One night, after a particularly grueling study session, Stephen found me crying in the library. Instead of judging me, he sat down and patiently explained the concepts I was struggling with. That was the moment I started to see him differently. Over the next few weeks, we began to spend more time together outside of our study group. We'd grab coffee after class, chat about our dreams and aspirations, and eventually, our friendship blossomed into romance. Stephen was always the perfect gentleman, kind, thoughtful, and supportive. He encouraged me to pursue my passion for marketing, even when my parents pushed me towards accounting. When I landed my first internship at a local advertising agency, Stephen was there with flowers and my favorite takeout to celebrate. Our relationship wasn't without its challenges, though. During our senior year, Stephen's dad, Mark, had a heart attack. Stephen was devastated and considered dropping out to help with the family business. I supported him through those tough times, helping him balance his studies with frequent trips home. It was during one of these trips that I first met Helen. From the beginning, Helen never liked me. She's Stephen's older sister, and she's always been overprotective of him. When Stephen first introduced me to his family, Helen barely acknowledged my presence. I tried to chalk it up to stress. After all, their father was still recovering. But as time went on, her behavior only got worse. Helen would make snide comments about my appearance, my career choices, and even my family background. Once, at a family dinner, she accidentally spilled red wine on my new white blouse. Another time, she conveniently forgot to pass along my invitation to their mother's birthday party. Stephen always defended me, but I could tell it was causing tension between them. I tried my best to win Helen over. I invited her to lunch, sent her thoughtful gifts on her birthday, and even helped her plan her son's first birthday party. I spent weeks helping her create custom decorations and even bake the cake myself. But nothing seemed to work. Helen remained cold and distant, no matter what I did. When Stephen proposed 2 years ago, I was over the moon. We were on a weekend getaway to the beach, the same spot where we had our first kiss. As the sun was setting, Stephen got down on one knee and presented me with a beautiful ring that had belonged to his grandmother. Through happy tears, I said yes. Our engagement party should have been a joyous occasion, but Helen found a way to dampen the mood. She gave a toast that was more about Stephen's accomplishments than our relationship. She even managed to bring up Stephen's ex-girlfriend, mentioning how close they had been. I was hurt, but I tried not to let it show. I wanted to start our new life together on a positive note. As the wedding approached, Helen's behavior became increasingly erratic. She insisted on being involved in every aspect of the planning, from the venue selection to the menu choices. At first, I thought she was trying to be helpful, but I soon realized she was trying to take over. She'd change arrangements behind my back, cancel appointments with vendors, and even tried to convince Stephen to change the date of the wedding. I remember one particularly stressful day when Helen showed up unannounced at our cake tasting. She insisted on trying every flavor and then declared that none of them were good enough. She even suggested we use her friend's bakery instead, despite the fact that we had already put down a non-refundable deposit. Stephen finally put his foot down and told her to back off, which led to a huge argument between them. The final straw came on the day of the wedding. I was getting ready in the bridal suite with my bridesmaids. My best friend, Lily, was helping me into my dress, a beautiful, custom-made gown that I had spent months designing. It was perfect, with delicate lace sleeves and a sweetheart neckline. I felt like a princess. Just as we were putting the finishing touches on my hair and makeup, Helen burst in, holding a glass of red wine. She stumbled towards me, clearly drunk, and started ranting about how I wasn't good enough for her brother. She brought up old insecurities, claiming that Stephen was only marrying me out of pity. Before anyone could stop her, she tripped and spilled the entire glass of wine on my wedding dress. I was devastated. My perfect white dress was now stained with red wine, and there was no time to fix it. My bridesmaids tried their best to clean it up, but the stain was still visible. I had to walk down the aisle with a huge red blotch on the front of my dress. Throughout the ceremony, I could hear Helen snickering in the background. During the reception, she made a scene, giving a drunken toast where she talked about all of Stephen's ex-girlfriends and how they were so much better than me. She even went as far as to suggest that Stephen was making a mistake by marrying me. Stephen was furious and tried to get her to leave, but she refused. By the end of the night, I was in tears. What should have been the happiest day of my life had been ruined by Helen's vindictive behavior. Stephen was apologetic and furious with his sister, but the damage was done. Our wedding photos were a constant reminder of Helen's cruelty. In every picture, you could see the wine stain on my dress. After we returned from our honeymoon, I decided I'd had enough. I wasn't going to let Helen get away with what she'd done. I started digging into her past, talking to old friends and coworkers. What I discovered shocked me. Helen had been fired from her last 3 jobs for embezzlement. She'd been stealing money from the company she worked for to fund her lavish lifestyle. Her current job at a prestigious law firm was built on a lie. She'd faked her law degree and bar exam results. I found out she had never even finished college, dropping out in her junior year after a scandal involving plagiarism. But that wasn't all. I discovered that Helen had been cheating on her husband Tom, 34M, with his best friend for the past 2 years. They had met at a company retreat and had been carrying on their affair ever since. She'd even gone as far as to fake a paternity test to convince Tom that their son was his, when in reality, it was his best friend's child. Armed with this information, I knew exactly what I was going to do. Helen had ruined my wedding day, and now I was going to ruin her life. I started by anonymously tipping off the Bar Association about Helen's fake credentials. I provided them with evidence of her falsified degree and bar exam results. Then, I sent an anonymous email to her current employer detailing her history of embezzlement, including bank statements showing suspicious transfers from company accounts to her personal account. Finally, I created a fake social media account and messaged Tom, revealing Helen's affair and the truth about his son's paternity. I included screenshots of text messages between Helen and her lover, as well as the real results of the paternity test that I had managed to obtain. Within a week, Helen's life imploded. She was disbarred and fired from her job. Tom kicked her out of their house and filed for divorce. Her reputation in our small town was in tatters. People who had once admired her success were now gossiping about her downfall. I know what I did was extreme, but I don't regret it. Helen had been tormenting me for years, and she crossed a line when she ruined my wedding day. Maybe now she'll learn that her actions have consequences. Am I the asshole for exposing my sister-in-law's secrets after she ruined my wedding? Update 1. It's been a month since my last post, and a lot has happened. I want to thank everyone for their comments and support. Many of you asked for an update, so here it is. After I exposed Helen's secrets, things in our family got really tense. Stephen was initially shocked when he found out what I'd done. He knew his sister had issues, but he had no idea about the extent of her deception. We had a long, difficult conversation about it. I explained to him how hurt and angry I was about our wedding day, and how I felt that Helen had been tormenting me for years. Stephen admitted that he had always hoped Helen would come around eventually. He shared stories from their childhood, how Helen had always been the golden child in their family, excelling in school and sports while Stephen struggled with dyslexia. He realized now that Helen's perfectionist facade had been hiding a lot of insecurities and lies. Helen, unsurprisingly, didn't take her downfall well. She showed up at our house one night, completely drunk and hysterical. It was around 2 a.m. when we heard loud banging on our front door. When we opened it, Helen stumbled in, reeking of alcohol. She was screaming and crying, accusing me of ruining her life. Stephen tried to calm her down, but she was beyond reason. She started throwing things, a vase, picture frames, anything she could get her hands on. When she picked up a heavy bookend, I feared she might actually try to hurt one of us. She even tried to physically attack me, lunging at me with her nails out, but Stephen intervened, restraining her until we could call the police. The officers who responded were familiar faces. In our small town, everyone knows everyone. They were shocked to see Helen, once considered a respectable lawyer, in such a state. They gently but firmly escorted her off our property, and we later found out they took her to the station to sober up. The fallout in Stephen's family has been severe. Their parents, Mark, 58M, and Linda, 56F, were devastated when they found out about Helen's lies. They've always been proud of her supposed success as a lawyer, and finding out it was all built on deception was a huge blow. Linda has been calling us daily, crying and asking how this could have happened. She shared that she had always put Helen on a pedestal, bragging about her achievements to friends and family. Now, she feels like she doesn't even know her own daughter. Mark, on the other hand, has barely spoken to anyone since the news broke. Stephen says this is typical of his father. He tends to withdraw when faced with emotional situations. Tom, Helen's soon-to-be ex-husband, reached out to Stephen a couple of weeks ago. He wanted to thank us for revealing the truth about his son's paternity. It turns out he had suspicions for a while but could never prove anything. He shared that he had noticed his son didn't really look like him, and there were times when Helen was overly protective of her phone. But he had dismissed his doubts, not wanting to believe Helen could betray him like that. Tom is currently fighting for full custody of his son, even though he's not the biological father. He says he loves the boy regardless and wants to protect him from Helen's toxic influence. The custody battle has been messy, with Helen trying to paint Tom as an unfit father. But given Helen's recent behavior and legal troubles, Tom's lawyers are confident he has a strong case. As for Helen herself, last we heard, she's staying with a cousin in another state. She's lost her job, her marriage, her reputation, and now she's facing potential legal troubles due to her embezzlement and fraud. The last time Stephen spoke to her, she was talking about entering a rehab facility to deal with her alcohol addiction. Part of me feels guilty for causing such destruction. I never intended for things to go this far. I was angry and hurt, and I wanted Helen to face consequences for her actions. But seeing the pain it's caused Stephen's family, I sometimes wonder if I went too far. Then I remember how she's treated me over the years, and especially on my wedding day, and the guilt fades. Stephen and I are doing okay. This whole situation has been stressful, but in a way, it's brought us closer together. We've had many late-night conversations about family, loyalty, and forgiveness. Stephen has been incredibly supportive, and he's made it clear that he stands by my actions. He says he's sorry he didn't see how toxic Helen was sooner, and he's promised to always put our relationship first from now on. We've decided to take a break from Stephen's family drama for a while. We're planning a second wedding ceremony, a small, intimate affair with just our closest friends. We want to create some happy memories to replace the ones Helen tainted. We're thinking of having it at the beach where Stephen proposed, bringing our relationship full circle. I'll update again if anything significant happens. Thank you all again for your support during this difficult time. Update 2. It's been 3 months since my last update, and the situation with Helen has taken some unexpected turns. About a month ago, we received news that Helen had been arrested. Apparently, her former employer pressed charges for embezzlement, and the evidence against her was overwhelming. The police had been building a case for weeks, gathering financial records and witness statements. They finally had enough to make an arrest. Helen was taken into custody at her cousin's house. According to what we heard, she didn't resist arrest, but she did break down crying as they led her away. She's currently awaiting trial and could face significant jail time if convicted. The arrest seems to have been a wake-up call for Helen. She reached out to Stephen from jail, asking to speak with both of us. At first, I was hesitant. I didn't want to open old wounds or subject myself to more of her abuse. But Stephen felt we should hear her out, so after much discussion, we decided to visit her. We went to the county jail last week, and it was intense. The visit started with an awkward silence as we sat across from Helen, separated by a glass partition. Helen looked terrible, pale, thin, with dark circles under her eyes. Her usually perfectly manicured nails were bitten down to the quick, and her designer clothes had been replaced by a drab prison jumpsuit. As soon as she saw us, she broke down crying. Through sobs, she apologized profusely for everything she'd done, not just at our wedding, but over the years. She admitted that she'd always been jealous of me because she felt I was taking her brother away from her. Helen opened up about her own insecurities and struggles. She confessed to struggling with alcohol addiction for years, which explained some of her erratic behavior. She said it started in college when she was struggling to keep up with her coursework. The drinking led to the plagiarism scandal that got her expelled, and things spiraled from there. She also revealed that she had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder a few years ago but had stopped taking her medication because she didn't like the side effects. This, combined with her alcohol abuse, had contributed to her increasingly erratic behavior. While I appreciate her apology, I'm having a hard time forgiving her. The hurt she caused runs deep, and I'm not sure if I'll ever be able to fully trust her again. Stephen is struggling too. He wants to support his sister, but he's also angry and disappointed in her actions. On a more positive note, Stephen and I had our second wedding ceremony last month. It was everything we had hoped our first wedding would be, small, intimate, and filled with love. We held it at sunset on the beach where Stephen had proposed. Our closest friends surrounded us as we renewed our vows. This time, we wrote our own vows. Stephen promised to always be my partner in both joy and hardship, to support my dreams and to choose our love every day. I vowed to be his rock, to face life's challenges by his side, and to fill our days with laughter and love. There wasn't a dry eye on the beach when we finished. It felt like a fresh start for us, a chance to create new, happy memories untainted by the past drama. After the ceremony, we had a bonfire on the beach, roasting marshmallows and sharing stories with our friends. It was simple, but it was perfect. Tom's custody battle for his son, who is technically his nephew, is ongoing. The courts are taking the unusual circumstances into account, and it looks like he has a good chance of getting full custody. Tom's lawyers have presented evidence of Helen's unstable behavior and her current legal troubles, which has strengthened his case. The boy is only 3, so he doesn't really understand what's happening, but Tom is doing his best to shield him from the turmoil. He's been taking him to play therapy to help him process the changes in his life. Tom says the boy often asks about his mom, which breaks his heart. Stephen's parents are slowly coming to terms with everything that's happened. They've started seeing a family therapist to help them process their feelings about Helen's actions and her current situation. Linda has been attending Al-Anon meetings, which she says have been helpful in understanding Helen's addiction. They've also been making an effort to rebuild their relationship with Stephen and me. Last weekend, they invited us over for dinner. It was a bit awkward at first, but as the evening went on, we found ourselves laughing and sharing stories like we used to before all this happened. It felt like a small step towards healing. As for me, I'm trying to move forward. I've started seeing a counselor to work through my feelings about everything that's happened. It's helping me process my anger and hurt in healthier ways. We've been working on techniques for managing stress and anxiety, which has been really helpful. Stephen and I are also focusing on our future. We're talking about starting a family of our own soon. We've started looking at houses in a nearby neighborhood with good schools. It feels good to be planning for the future instead of dwelling on the past. I know the road ahead won't be easy, especially with Helen's trial looming, but I feel like we're in a better place now. We're facing things as a team, and that makes all the difference. Update 3. It's been 6 months since my last update, and I wanted to share the latest developments in our ongoing family saga. Helen's trial concluded last month. It was a tense few weeks as we waited for the verdict. The prosecution presented a strong case, with extensive financial records showing Helen's embezzlement. Helen's defense team tried to argue that her mental health issues and addiction contributed to her actions, but in the end, the evidence was too overwhelming. Helen pleaded guilty to embezzlement charges and was sentenced to 3 years in prison. The judge took into account her recent efforts to turn her life around and her willingness to make amends, which resulted in a lighter sentence than initially expected. She'll also have to pay restitution to her former employer. Before she went to prison, Helen asked to meet with Stephen and me one last time. We agreed, and it was an emotional encounter. Helen seemed genuinely remorseful and determined to use her time in prison to work on herself. She's enrolled in an alcohol rehabilitation program and is taking classes to earn a legitimate degree. During our meeting, Helen shared more about her struggles with bipolar disorder and how it had affected her decision-making over the years. She's now on a stable medication regimen and seeing a therapist regularly. While I'm still cautious, I can see that she's making an effort to change. Stephen has been struggling with mixed emotions about his sister's imprisonment. He's relieved that she's getting help, but he's also sad about the circumstances. We've been attending family therapy sessions together, which has been helping us navigate this complex situation. In our last session, Stephen was able to express his feelings of guilt for not noticing his sister's struggles earlier. Tom won full custody of his son, now officially his adopted son. The little boy is adjusting well, and Tom has been amazing throughout this whole ordeal. He's even agreed to let Stephen's parents have visitation rights, recognizing the importance of maintaining family connections despite the complicated circumstances. Last week, we all got together for the boy's 4th birthday party. It was bittersweet, but it felt like a step towards a new kind of normal. Stephen's parents, Mark and Linda, have made significant progress in therapy. They've come to terms with Helen's actions and have been making a concerted effort to rebuild their relationship with us. We've been having weekly family dinners, and it's been nice to see them without the cloud of Helen's drama hanging over us. Last Sunday, Linda even brought out old photo albums, and we spent the evening reminiscing about happier times. As for Stephen and me, we're doing better than ever. We've put the wedding drama behind us and are focusing on our future. I'm excited to share that I'm pregnant with our first child. We found out a few weeks ago, and we're over the moon. It feels like a new chapter in our lives, one filled with hope and possibility. We've started preparing the nursery in our new house. Stephen has been adorably overprotective, insisting on doing all the painting himself to keep me away from the fumes. We've been having fun picking out furniture and debating over color schemes. Looking back on everything that's happened, I have mixed feelings. I still believe Helen needed to face consequences for her actions, but I regret the way I went about it. I've learned that revenge, while momentarily satisfying, often leads to more pain and complications. If I could do it all over again, I would have tried to address the issues with Helen more directly, perhaps with the help of a family mediator. This experience has taught me a lot about forgiveness, not just of others but of myself. I'm working on forgiving Helen for her past behavior, and I'm also working on forgiving myself for the way I handled the situation. It's a process, and some days are harder than others, but I'm committed to moving forward. As we prepare for the arrival of our baby, Stephen and I are committed to breaking the cycle of family drama. We want to create a loving, stable environment for our child, one where conflicts are resolved through open communication and mutual respect. Thank you all for following our story and for your support throughout this journey. While it's been a difficult road, I feel like we're finally moving towards a brighter future.